Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude, where I do trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, I review YouTube channels, occasionally I'll review a movie, but really, I just do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude, down in the basement. I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving with your families and stuff like that. And I hope you're not eating anything during this video, because in this one, I don't think it's going to be too appetizing. This is from a channel called They Will Kill You, and it's 10 creepy animals that can enter the human body. Let's check this out.
Number 10. Roundworms. Filarial worms, also known as roundworms, can wreak havoc on human health. They typically enter the bloodstream through mosquito bites and actively target the lymphatic system. They're linked to a condition known as elephantiasis tropica, which causes severe and painful swelling in the legs, arms, breasts, and genitals. The skin may also become thicker, causing sufferers to experience pain. In developing countries, the debilitating...
Can you imagine the torture? How bad that would hurt? You couldn't walk, you couldn't... That would be absolutely terrible.
Condition also carries a social stigma, with sufferers often becoming ostracized. The case reports on elephantiasis are among the most gruesome of all parasitic diseases. Mohammed Mushtaq from Pakistan pleaded with doctors to amputate his leg after it got so swollen that it weighed 330 pounds.
Holy crap.
The feet of one Indian woman got incredibly swollen from a very young age, so much so that she was never able to wear shoes.
Something like that wouldn't happen in the US, just for the simple fact that I don't think anyone would let it go that long. But in like a place like India, especially like out in the villages, in the really poor areas, they don't have access to any help of any kind. So what do? They just live with it. It's horrible.
One Kenyan man had to undergo surgery for scrotal elephantiasis as he suffered from a 4-foot penis and 11-pound testicles. In a similar case, American man Wesley Warren Jr.'s scrotum weighed 100 pounds. Some roundworm species, named...
So if you ever complain about the size of your penis, think of that. Would you want a 4-foot-long penis?
Onchocerca volvus are known to cause river blindness. On a global scale, it's the second most common cause of blindness resulting from infection. Number 9. Hookworms. When viewed close up through a microscopic lens, the hookworm is arguably one of the most terrifying parasites on our list. Two species, Ancylostoma duodenal and Nicator americanus, are known to commonly infect humans. The former has 2 rows of teeth, while the latter has a pair of cut-in plates. They live in animal feces, and the larvae enter the human body by burrowing through the skin. One of the most common ways in which people get infected is by walking barefoot on contaminated soil. Florida teenager Michael Dumas, for example, got a bad hookworm infection in his foot after his friends buried him in the sand. Doctors found hookworms, one of which was close to 3 inches long, crawling under Dumas' skin. He was given antibiotics, steroids, and anti-parasitic medication, but was still in pain even a month after the incident. Hookworms will typically settle in the small intestine and rely on the human body for nutrition. Aside from fatigue, weakness, and abdominal pain, they are also known to affect the physical and mental development of young children. Number 8. Whipworms. Much like hookworms, whipworms enter the human body via contaminated soil. Eggs are primarily transmitted through dirty hands or unwashed fruits and vegetables. As the larvae hatch, they take up residence in the large intestine. The most common symptom of heavy infection is painful bowel movements, which contain a mixture of blood, mucus, and water. Severe complications include appendicitis, rectal prolapse, or bloody diarrhea. In children, whipworm infection can cause nutritional deficiency as well as impede cognitive growth and development. Whipworms aren't by any means recent human parasites. In a Turkish historic village, microscopic eggs were found in human feces samples going back more than 9,000 years. Number 7. Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasma gondii is a parasite capable of infecting any warm-blooded creature, but so far, cats are its only known definitive hosts. The parasite spreads to humans via exposure to infected cat feces, but can also be contracted from various contaminated meats. It causes a condition called toxoplasmosis, which in people with weak immune systems can cause seizures and poor coordination. It's particularly dangerous for expecting mothers, since it can be transmitted to unborn fetuses through the placenta. Congenital toxoplasmosis increases the risk of miscarriage, while the infant may also suffer from blindness, epilepsy, or severe mental abnormalities. In the US, an estimated 750 people succumb to toxoplasmosis each year, with nearly half of those cases being associated with tainted meats. The CDC recommends proper food preparation and for cat owners to regularly change litter boxes so as to prevent a buildup of the parasite in their homes.
Every day.
Number 6. Tapeworms. Tapeworms are for good reason among the most dreaded human parasites. Eggs may be transmitted through soil or fecal matter, but the most common means of human infection is through consuming raw or undercooked meat. Tinea solium is a type of tapeworm that comes from pork, while Tinea saginata is found in beef. The eggs typically become attached to the gastrointestinal wall. Once the eggs hatch, the larvae start depriving the host of nutrients and may...
Yeah, I've heard of that. They eat all of your food, basically, and take all the nutrients. You start losing weight like crazy until it just kills you. I've heard of actually people buying them on the black market in like capsule form to lose weight. Pretty extreme way to lose weight. And they take the tapeworm in the capsule form, and just like for a month or so, and then they got like another capsule they take afterwards that supposedly kills the tapeworm. That's crazy stuff. I wouldn't do it.
May grow for years without
it's
being
illegal
detected.
as hell, by the way.
Adults are
so I don't
hermaphrodites
recommend it.
and may actually produce more eggs inside their host. Tapeworm infections aren't typically deadly, but in severe cases may cause loss of appetite and emaciation. However, it's possible that the larvae start penetrating the intestinal wall.
Yeah.
Once they enter the bloodstream, they're basically on a highway connecting various muscle tissues. The most dangerous aspect is that the tapeworms can actually travel to the central nervous system. They become lodged at the site, causing a condition called neurocysticercosis. Cysts start forming in the brain, which can lead to blindness, epileptic seizures, lesions, or tumor-like growths. The condition is associated with major neurological problems and even death. It's been described as a hidden pandemic, the leading cause of seizures worldwide, and is suspected of being the most common parasitic disease of the brain. Reports of tapeworm infections describe nightmarish situations. In 2019, a Chinese construction worker was found with over 700 tapeworm cysts in his body, including in the brain and lungs. A Thai man was horrified when he pulled a live tapeworm out of his backside. The stretched out worm reportedly measured close to 30 feet. One man had a 5-foot tapeworm removed through his nostril, and he'd reportedly been living with the parasite for 15 years.
15 years.
Since tapeworms are hard to detect and victims are often asymptomatic, they can live inside the human body for up to 3 decades and can potentially grow to be 80 feet long. Number 5.
Can you imagine that? It would just curl up inside of you. Ugh.
Blood flukes. Blood flukes are parasitic flatworms commonly found in standing bodies of water, such as ponds or lakes. Larvae will pass through intermediate snail hosts before the worms enter a new developmental phase in which they're capable of burrowing through human skin. They'll enter blood vessels and migrate to the intestines, urinary tract, and, in rare cases, vital organs. In 2019, an unnamed Mexican man was found with flukes clinging to the walls of his liver. Blood flukes can thrive inside the human body for decades. They cause a condition called schistosomiasis, also known as snail fever. It's been described as the second most devastating parasitic disease after malaria. It can lead to learning difficulties and poor growth in children. People who've been infected for a long time may suffer kidney failure, liver damage, infertility, or bladder cancer. According to the World Health Organization, over 200 million people are infected each year, and about 200,000 die as a result of schistosomiasis. Since the disease is spread by contact with contaminated fresh water, access to clean water, and limiting the number of snails are the best preventative measures. Praziquantel is a type of medication that's effective both as a preventive treatment and as therapy for those infected. Number 4.
You know what? Just let me die in my sleep. That would be the best way to go. I don't want to have to suffer with anything like that. Life's hard enough as it is to end up with something like that.
Ticks.
I've had a tick.
Ticks are definitely among the creepiest and deadliest invaders of the human body. Even though they only burrow on the surface of the skin, these tiny bloodsuckers are host to a number of infectious viruses, bacteria, and protozoa. There's a long list of tick-borne disease that includes Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and Lyme disease. Ticks are part of the arachnid family, known for other ill-reputed members such as spiders and scorpions. Ticks need blood in order to survive and transition from one stage of life to the other. Since they can't jump or fly, many species have adapted their feeding strategies. They'll resort to something called questing. This involves clinging onto leaves or grass and holding their first pair of legs outstretched, ready to climb onto a host. Once they find a suitable spot, ticks will attach themselves firmly and use their mouth parts to pierce through the skin.
Yeah, they just burrow
As
in.
they feed on the host's blood, their pear-shaped bodies become grossly engorged. In addition to the many diseases they carry, ticks also have a neurotoxin in their salivary gland, which can cause tick paralysis. The potentially deadly disease has symptoms similar to anaphylaxis. The Australian paralysis tick, which has claimed a number of lives in its native habitat, can inject neurotoxic venom directly into its host. Number 3.
When I was a little kid, I would guess I was probably about 6, 7 years old. I remember I had one on my shin, on my leg, and it had burrowed in there. And my dad took a stick match, and he just lit it and blew it out and set it on top of the tick, and it backed right out. And then he just like brushed it off and stepped on it. And I'm 60 years old now, and I'm still here, so it didn't kill me. I don't know, maybe it was one of the type that doesn't do that. But yeah, that's the way he got it off. He just set the matchstick on top of it and it backed right out immediately. I remember that.
3. Pinworms. Pinworms are among the most common types of intestinal worm infections in the developed world. They're known to cause a disease called enterobiasis. These thin white worms grow to be about the size of a staple. Pinworms' eggs are swallowed, commonly as the consequence of contaminated hands, food, or other items. Enterobiasis can develop in people regardless of age, but is most common in children. That's because nail biting and finger sucking occur more frequently in this age group. Pinworms spread via the fecal-oral route and initially settle in the anus, where they can survive for up to 3 weeks. The most common symptom is itching in the area as the eggs start hatching and worms begin to wiggle around. Such infections are rarely deadly. However, prompt treatment, usually with mebendazole, is the best course of action as it prevents the worms from spreading. One particularly horrifying case occurred in the UK in 2016. An unnamed teenage girl went to the emergency room, complaining of nausea and pain in her right side. Doctors initially suspected appendicitis, but later found that her appendix was teeming with pinworms. They swiftly removed the organ and used the suction pipe to prevent stray worms from falling into the teenager's abdominal cavity. Number 2.
Wow.
Lower lower.
They actually had to remove the organ in order to get it out?
Commonly found in Africa, the lower lower is colloquially known as the eyeworm. It's transmitted through the bite of the mango fly or deer fly and migrates through human subcutaneous tissues at the skin's lowest layer. Infection causes a condition called lower lower filariasis. The creepiest aspect is that the worm is somewhat of a specialist at infecting the human eye, where it can live for several years. While it doesn't typically affect vision, the victim might actually feel pain as the worm's moving inside. Depending on the severity of the infection, treatments range from medication to surgical removal. In recent years, there was one case of an Indian woman with a lower lower worm living behind her cornea. She'd arrived at a medical facility with extremely bloodshot eyes and an inflamed iris. It wasn't long before the worm was discovered. Her condition was rather unusual, given the large size of the worm at slightly over 0.4 inches, and the fact that it's quite rare in India. Doctors ultimately removed the worm by numbing it with medication and then going through the woman's nasal cavity for extraction. Before we continue, official They Will Kill You merchandise is now available at theywillkillyou.com. Stop clowning around and check it out, because your purchases really help support the channel. Number 1. Screwworm. Cochleomya hominivorox, the larval stage of the screwworm fly, has adapted to feeding on the exposed flesh of warm-blooded animals, including humans. In other words, the screwworm is capable of eating humans alive. Females will lay hundreds of eggs inside open flesh, such as wounds, ears, or navels. Infestation of a live vertebrate is called myisis. The larvae hatch and start feeding into the surrounding flesh, burrowing or screwing deeper into the tissue as they go. As they chew through healthy tissue, the worms may cause severe damage and even the death of the host. Rochelle Harris was returning to the UK from a holiday in Peru when she started experiencing mild headaches. Harris soon developed excruciating.
Have you noticed that, like, in almost all of these, they don't just get inside you and just stay there. They grow and expand and start feeding and until it just absolutely destroys you.
Excruciating pain on one side of her face and heard strange scratching sounds in her head.
Back just a little bit.
Severe damage and even the death of the host. Rochelle Harris was returning to the UK from a holiday in Peru when she started experiencing mild headaches. Harris soon developed excruciating pain on one side of her face and heard strange scratching sounds in her head. Doctors were shocked to discover that maggots were living inside her ear canal. When they tried to remove them, the screwworms retreated towards her head. They ultimately discovered 8 large specimens living inside. The risks were plentiful. They could have chewed through facial nerves, causing face paralysis or migrate to the brain and cause meningitis or fatal bleeding. Fortunately, Harris didn't suffer any long-term side effects after the screwworms were successfully removed. Thanks for watching.
Wow.
Would you rather contract
What's that say?
flesh-eating maggots or walk a tightrope above crocodile-infested waters?
I'd do the tightrope.
Let us know in the comment section below.
I don't know, though. Can they treat the flesh-eating maggots? Because I know I'd fall. I know I wouldn't last. If they can treat the flesh-eating maggots and get them out of you, I'll take that. Because I know I can't walk a tightrope. So the crocodiles would have dinner for sure. Okay, that was from the channel They Will Kill You. They Will Kill You. How about a joke? So this guy, he checks into rehab the day after Thanksgiving. As it turns out, he just couldn't quit cold turkey. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.